SalesSheros, to another episode of our SalesSheros podcast, where we arm you with the tools and insights to conquer the challenges of the sales world and emerge victorious. Oh, I love that word. I'm your host, LaDonna Hale, joined by my amazing co-host, Angie Gonzalez. And today we're diving into a topic that resonates deeply between Angie and I, imposter syndrome. That nagging feeling that we're not as competent or deserving of success as others, and really as we perceive others to be. But fear not, because in this episode, we're going to explore how to recognize, overcome, and even harness imposter syndrome to propel ourselves to greater heights in our sales journeys. Angie, how are you this week? I'm tongue twisted. This is a long week for me. Woo!
I know. For anyone out there, we record at different times of the week. So this is the tail end of the week for LaDonna and I. So we do get a little tongue-tied. But I am good. I'm so excited about this topic. In sales, we definitely I won't speak for everyone. I definitely tend to compare myself to who's closing business, who's successful, who isn't, what do my numbers look like. So I am super excited to be talking about this topic.
I had a couple of trade shows this week, and it encouraged me to talk more about this, because in that, one was for facilities managers, one was for architects, designers, primarily designers, in the Portland, Oregon metro. And I was able to listen to a few women who I have immense respect for, who I look at and I see their power as strong, successful, integrous, beautiful. The three people that come to mind immediately who I had conversation with, who I saw at these trade shows, really, it struck a chord with me, because they came to me to talk about what they spoke about, and I was praising what their conversation was and what they taught on. And they had some things that they brought up about how they were feeling about their presentation. And it was imposter syndrome, like worrying about comparing the story that they shared to what is going on corporately for other manufacturers. And it was just so eye-opening, and it was eye-opening for me, and such a reminder of the fact that this is so prevalent for us as women.
Totally.
Right? Huge. So I want to just share a little bit about what imposter syndrome is. It's a psychological pattern where individuals doubt their achievements and fear being exposed as something that they are not, despite evidence of their competence. And that was the trigger for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am seeing you, women that had this conversation with me, as these powerful presence in our industry, but their perception of themselves is that there was lack, there's something they're missing in what they're doing. And it was just a reminder that we need to really work on that as women, standing in our power, standing in our strength, and not falling into this. It leads to feelings of inadequacy. It leads to feelings of anxiety. It often causes women to attribute their success to luck rather than their own abilities. I mean, it's huge.
Oh, yeah. It is huge. And what's interesting is a lot of us, we compare ourselves to each other our whole lives, right? It starts when you're a kid. You want the kid's truck. You're like, I want that. They're like, don't copy me. Your sister, you want to dress the way your sister dresses. You want to act the way they're acting. You want to do sports because your friends are doing sports. So we started at such a young age, really copying people and comparing ourselves to other people. But I think for me, I didn't learn about, genuinely, kindly, sincerely learn about imposter syndrome until my adulthood, in my late 30s, 40s, when I have a very good friend. Her name is LaDonna Hale, and her beautiful daughter, Mariah Stone. Honestly, because we've been friends now together, going on 15 years, I think, right? Yeah. So it was, I think, at the beginning of our friendship, I joined a business opportunity with you and your daughter, Mariah. And it wasn't until you guys brought it to my attention in a very kind and sincere way of this is how we're doing the business. And I was like, okay, great. I'm going to copy that. And you're like, no, don't copy us. We love you for you. Do it your way. And I was like, I kind of was taken aback by that because part of me was like, well, no one's ever said that to me before. Like I feel like if I'm going to copy you, you're like, okay, yeah, just do what you need to do and make it happen. But you girls were so kind to me to see the value of who I was. I didn't believe myself to tell me kindly, like, don't do it our way. Like, don't do it. And so that's when I started going and like, I need to do, and I think you even said to me, you need to do personal development around imposter syndrome. Like, I think you brought that up to me because you and Mariah were always so good after that first conversation where it was a little awkward for me to hear. You guys were like, okay, now don't forget, like, do it your way. Like, your way is awesome. Like, don't do it my way, but I'll tell you how I did it. So I'm super jazzed. Working through imposter syndrome throughout most of my adult life, it can be really challenging. And then when we pull that into sales, like with the gals that you were just with this last week, we really compare ourselves to other women of, are they succeeding? They're closing their business. They're getting more calls. They have more presence on social media. We really, really do that. So recognizing imposter syndrome, I think for women is extremely the first step in us learning how to overcome it. Right. And not just saying, oh, I'm lacking. I don't feel like I'm good enough at this. It's not always that. It really could be that you're comparing and you're trying to be like something that really authentically isn't you. And I know that you talk about that all the time, being the authentic self. So recognizing imposter syndrome, first steps to overcoming it. One of the definite signs that persist is us feeling self-doubt, right? Even in the face of evidence that like we know we're competent to do it, like those gals you were with last week. You saw them as powerhouse women. They were competent, capable. They resonated with you. But then as soon as they stepped off whatever platform they were on, they had personal self-doubt, right? Yes. Like you witnessed it. That's the wild part about it. So that inner voice whispering, you're not good enough despite all the things that you've done to achieve it. Another clue about it is that inner tendency to attribute your accomplishments to luck or external factors rather than acknowledging our own skill and hard work. How many times have you done that? Oh, I just got lucky. Right? I just got lucky. It's like, no, I've worked hard to learn this and do this and apply this, right? We don't give ourselves that credit. And of course, let's not forget about fear of being exposed as, misleading someone in a constant state of anxiety. That was how it was for me. Following you and Mariah in a business venture, seeing your success, knowing I want to be part of that. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid, but then having the anxiety and insecurity within myself to go, I'm not them. I'm not doing it like them, but I want to be like them. Like I had to find that balance, right? And really like get out of that personal thing. So recognizing the patterns in our thoughts and behaviors is crucial in the journey of conquering imposter syndromes. But I think the main thing is we worked through it. We still work through it today. We still deal with it every day. We want to make sure that all of our listeners know that they are good enough. And we always want to be reminding you guys of how awesome we think you guys are.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. You are good enough. And overcoming imposter syndrome it's a journey. It's a process. Angie and I talk a lot about self-development, personal development from those times that Angie's talking about when Mariah and I were saying that to Angie, we were overcoming that. And so because we were exposed to such good mentors and trainers and people talking a lot about personal development, we were just baby steps ahead of Angie and that small process. So we could gift what we saw in you, Angie, that we had just overcome and then are perpetually and continually overcoming. Because since then I've had changes. I've had things happen. I've pivoted in my career. I'm 53 years old. So of course I have to constantly be working on my self-development because I would fall prey and can fall prey to that dwelling on self-doubt and focusing on accomplishments and skills that got me instead of dwelling on self-doubt, focusing on accomplishments and the skills that got me to that level. That's one powerful strategy that you can do to reframe your thoughts. So personal development is huge. If you don't work, and it doesn't have to be all day every day, and you don't want to get
Right.
into the loop of working on personal development so much that you're never taking actions too, because I've done so much personal development and got caught up in hiring so many coaches that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so confused, what do I even do to pivot one thing forward? So
Right.
there's a balance in that. So that's why I love to say, if you're working on one thing all the time in your 5 top priority areas, and maybe that be that you need to be work, if any of this is resonating, personal development around imposter syndrome may be exactly where you need to put yourself to overcome this.
Yeah,
Another
100%.
right, yeah. So another helpful tool is really that seeking advice from mentors, friends, colleagues who can provide encouragement and perspective. And if you don't do this already, because I didn't prior to the group of women that I have as my core friends now in my life, this has not always been how my life has been. I didn't always have friends and colleagues and mentors who were honest with me and transparent with me and who understood how to drive me and help me be my best, and not so that I don't suffer from imposter syndrome, right? Like currently in
Right.
my life, I'm not really suffering from imposter syndrome because I know God is going to bless what and where I'm supposed to be. Like he's going to
Right.
lead me. If it's not quite working, my immediate response isn't to feel bad about myself. It's to look at where I need to pivot and where I need to stay authentic and where my voice needs to be, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
and I
big.
think, and that's a good point too, because if anyone else on the planet probably said those words to me in that moment of my life 15 years ago, I would have looked at them and said, what a jerk. Like, who are they to tell me? But I was already witnessing your guys' personal development change, and which is what made your business skyrocket, start changing, and your business start growing, and your family life start growing. And so I think, to your point of seeking support from mentors, friends, and colleagues, obviously I don't just go throwing advice out to people randomly, like, hey, I just heard that conversation, you need to work on this. That is not my place. But the people that are in my circle are come to me saying, hey, I'm lacking in this. Can you walk me through what I could be working on? Then absolutely. If people are open, and we talked about that before, if you're open to feedback from people, open to the
Right.
change, an internal change, then yeah, seeking from mentors and colleagues, and people, we need that. Because in
Yes.
sales, if we go back in time to when we first started, I mean, you and I both have collectively 60 years in sales, right? We never were focused on ourselves as far as how can I be better? There's all these self-help books out there, but in the circle I ran with, no one focused on women in the tech world or women in other worlds going, okay, if you pivot this, your business can shift 100-fold, right? And it starts with
Yes.
you internally, right? And so now that we're in this life of, there's so much talk of personal development, self-help, like people are talking openly about, oh, I'm doing a lot of personal development around this. They're not afraid to talk about it anymore. So yeah,
Right.
I love that you brought up people needing to learn from other people. And you used a right term. You gifted your knowledge of what you went through. You could blatantly see that I was struggling, and you gifted your knowledge of what you guys were learning to me. And to this day, I could never be more grateful.
Oh, I love you and I love that. Thank you,
I love
Ange.
you.
Yes, setting realistic goals and celebrating your successes, no matter how small, can also boost your confidence and combat the imposter feelings. Setting realistic goals. I mean, and this, I'm going to speak to this in terms of what. So especially if like you're in a corporate sales setting, numbers are very big in corporate sales. I mean, it's how most people. It's how most people. It's how we know we're making a living and can afford. It's how our corporations know they can afford to pay us,
Against the
right?
number. Everything's against the
Against the
number.
number. And so that can breed so much imposter syndrome, especially when corporate is constantly pushing the numbers. You're seeing everybody's numbers. It can breed a level of it can breed levels of competitiveness that can be unhealthy, because then you
Right.
start comparing yourself to someone's 6 million without taking into account all of the things that took to get that territory to 6 million, including like years of work and tenure of
Right.
the, I mean, there's just so many facets to it.
Yeah,
So
those corporate leaderboards are always, to your point, they're good and bad, right? You do want
yes,
that healthy competition in sales, right? We're like, let's
yes,
go. But there's so many factors. It could be regional dynamic. It could be what side of the country are you on? How long have you been with the company, right? So there's so many things that could make it now
yes.
toxic to where every day you're looking at that leaderboard going, I am not good enough because I'm way down here and I've been at the very bottom at a list of an entire corporate company when I'm building a region because I'm newer to the organization. So yeah,
Yes,
it can be very
exactly.
toxic.
I mean, it could be a territory that hasn't had a sales rep for a number of years, or a territory that had high numbers and had a sales rep that did poorly, and then you're coming in cleaning up behind that. There's just a lot of factors. And so comparison is the thief of joy. That's one of my favorite sayings ever. Comparison is the
Love
thief
that.
of joy. Use it to vet. I mean, I for sure look at the high numbers in my region and I'm like, of course I want to get to that. Of course. I mean, because financially the impact of that is that I can bless others. I can tithe more. I can build a couple cabins that I want to build on 5 acres that is sitting there ready for it. Like there's just right that fuels my success for the things that I want to bless the world with, bless my family with, and bless myself with. So remember this, because this is really important. You're not alone in any of this. And oftentimes, this is a big one. Oftentimes, high achievers experience imposter syndrome way more than other people. High
Totally.
achievers experience imposter syndrome way more than other people. So be self-aware, use the right strategies, and you can overcome it and thrive in your sales journey. The worst thing you can do is let imposter syndrome make you sit on the couch and not get out and do your job. And
Right.
I feel when I start to get that like kind of nudgy, like I'm not qualified, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough. When it's literally when I can go back and look at the week prior and go, I was not as effective at my job as I could have been. I spent a little too
Right.
much time on this, which you know, like that. When I'm not doing what I need to be doing is when I get those nudges that start to kind of have the creep of imposter syndrome. So then I can easily reevaluate, make some pivots to change to be a better servant leader as a salesperson.
That's awesome. Exactly. I know one thing that is really cool, the self-awareness is big for sure. But I do think also one thing that can help is keeping a brag book or a kind of a journal where you document your wins and positive feedbacks from other people. And I know that sounds a little cheesy to some people or like, when do I have time to write it down? But we have a phone with us. And if you open up my notes tab on my phone, I have all these different pages for things. And there's one that I do, that I just put gratitude around. It's gratitude. And I will put, if someone gave me a compliment that day, or if I got an answer, someone answered a phone call that I've been trying to cold call for a while, right? Even if they said, no, thank you for your business, they answered today. I called 8 times. But keeping that when I'm having those moments of non-productive weeks of like, why am I not like, the Joneses over here? I can go back to that and say, I am okay. I am doing good. So keeping that journal of positive wins and feedback, I think, is a great help. And just a reminder that you are making real impact in your sales career. And when you don't feel like you are, to LaDonna's point, look back at the week and go, what took my mind and actions away from doing what I know I can be doing to be successful? And if you dissect your week that wasn't good, it'll pivot you to impact your sales career to flip it to the high trajectory, right? So now you're going to start putting action behind moving forward.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to start doing that. I love that. Thank you. That was a really great, I'm going to start it in my notes in my phone. So smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like so excited because I have a couple people that have like thanked me for things. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and take what they sent me and put it in there. And then when I'm having those a little bit of lows, oh, that's such a great idea.
Well, yeah,
Another
and
thing.
it's weird because then when you're driving and you're sitting at a stoplight, and you're beating yourself up with self doubt of like, oh, I just got off that call and it was horrible, or I just met that person and they were so rude, and I can't believe I said this, and you start beating yourself up, which I do that. I'm hard on myself, and so even at a stoplight, I'll just quickly open up the note and everything in that one bookmark thing is positive. So it doesn't matter what I'm reading. It doesn't have to pertain to anything. It's like something is good, was said about me or done to me that is positive. So yeah, definitely
I
do
love
that.
that. Yeah. Another helpful tool is to really embrace a growth mindset, which we've chatted about. Understand that it's okay to make mistakes and that every setback as an opportunity to learn and grow, do some personal development around this topic, around
Mm-hmm.
understanding growth mindset,
Yeah.
and like lack versus prosperity thinking. I mean, when you think in prosperity and you don't think in lack, you can be like, I was at a trade show with all these vendors, and I can feel the vendors that are loving and gracious and love themselves, and they have high energy and they're not competitive. Like, you can feel a difference in their personalities. There's no ego. Like, everything's a lot. Even when they're a direct competitor, you can have great relationships
Oh,
out there.
totally.
And then
Totally.
everyone grows. And it's interesting because I can really, like, we've had a mentor, Danelle Delgado, that both Angie and I have worked with in the past. And she talks a lot about like the comparison thing, and also like growth mindset. And she was really helpful for me, and that, and like pivoting some things that I was challenged with in that area around that.
Yeah, yeah, the block side on that. And it's interesting when you bring up, I don't have to do trade shows as often as you do, but it's interesting when you bring that up because put yourself in your customer or client's shoes, walking into a trade show. What tables are they really going to gravitate to? The people where there's some tension, some coldness, some like, I'm just here because I have to be, or the ones that are just like, hey, my booth is right next to my competitor. We both do the same thing. We're both good humans. I may be a good fit. They may be a good fit. It doesn't matter as long as you're getting your services met. That at the end of the day, it is always
Yeah.
important. So always
Yeah.
remember to,
Energy matters. I mean, like,
mm-hmm.
exactly to Angie's point, your energy, people will feel that when you're the person that is like, wow, when you're looking at other people and you're constantly saying they're crushing it while you're feeling like you're not, that's going to translate to the people that you come in contact with. And then you're going to
Yeah.
have more of that low.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. There in sales, especially, you do need to sit at times. I like closing a quarter out at the bottom, sitting in that for a minute to say, okay, this sucks. It is not for the lack of trying, but what can I do so I don't feel like this next quarter? Where do I need to build? Who do I need to ask in my team or at leadership level to help me get where I need to go and I want to go? So it's okay to, I think, sit in it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because I think it is, I love Danelle Delgado because I think she did the whole 24 hours, sit in something negative for 24 hours. If something happens to you, sit in that emotion for 24 hours. But after that, she's been quick to cut it off and be like, nope, I'm not going to feel this way anymore. And I think she, even now, I still love her and follow her. And I think even now she has it down to like 25 minutes or, whatever it is, 24 hours to 24 minutes to 24 seconds to try to pivot your mindset. So you're not sitting in the negativity, but you also have to
Yeah.
feel it, right? So that you
Mm-hmm.
can change. So yeah, speaking of change, so how can we harness this and still strive for greater heights? Because we do face this every single day. We will, I feel, continue to face this every single day. So while imposter syndrome can feel like a huge setback to a lot of people, it can also be a catalyst for growth if we really learn how to harness that effectively. So one way to do this is by using it as a motivation and continuously improve and learn for yourself, which is what I've done. I've been like, I don't like sitting in that negativity. I'm going to flip this and be obnoxiously positive for everyone and myself, right? So by acknowledging the areas of our self-doubt, we really can identify the areas of growth and take those proactive steps to develop our skills and knowledge. And that's exactly what you just said. You said, if you're feeling lack in something, do personal development around it. And it doesn't have to be every day. And I do quick things. It'll be confidence. It can be imposter syndrome. It can be not prospecting enough or some emotion attachment, right? Anxiety or something thereof. So doing that can help you develop those skills and knowledge. But additionally, imposter syndrome can help keep us humble and open to feedback, which is essential for personal and professional development in sales. Instead of letting the imposter feelings hold us back, we really can use them to fuel and push ourselves out of our comfort zones and reach those heights. I have to give that shout out to you and Mariah. I feel like if that God put us in the right, we always talk about this, God put us in the right place in the right time for our friendship. If you guys were not honest with the growth that you were doing for yourselves, and then recognizing that in the people around you, you never would have shared with me, hey, And you didn't tell me what to do. You were not bossy. You were just like, hey, we love you. We love the way you do things. So we want to see you do it your way. Like,
Mm.
and I just appreciate every time you and Mariah would remind me, don't do it our way, do it your way. And I really want to sincerely thank you for that, because that literally is the start of me taking ownership over myself and my personal development. And then
Oh,
the growth I have today internally is, I know, because of the foundation I have had with you girls. Don't cry, girl,
oh.
don't cry.
I know you can feel it. I said this, and I think it's so, I'm going to touch on self-compassion, but I want to say this. I am in a place today where I am having to practice more self-compassion because things have been a bit challenging, personally over the last week. Just, with, my husband and I caregive and have people that come in and caregive my mom and dad, and they need more help right now in life. And I want to love them and be present with them when I'm with them. But there are things that make the household a little bit more challenging. And so, I'm more emotional today because of that, that leads right into like really practicing self-compassion. You have to treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a friend that may be facing similar struggles or similar, I don't love the word struggles, but like challenges, right? And so just give yourself a lot of love and a lot of grace. And then I also want to talk about, I just want to share a tiny bit about authenticity, because Angie's saying this, and I was blessed this week to have been asked to do one of the trade shows that I did for the design community, and what's called a vignette. And so I was with other really powerful women, a tile rep, a fabric rep, the Formica rep. So similar I sell commercial flooring. That's my job, my corporate job. And so high end finishes for commercial interiors. And then I had this group of women that I presented with our booth. We did a tea party. It was very cute. We dressed up. We had tea and macaroons, and each of us kind of shared a bit of like we made kind of a little living room, a furniture rep. We had some commercial furniture. It was so fun. It was so great. But I should say not but, one of the reps who I was so blessed to be able to do this vignette with, I have so much respect for her in the industry. She's really, really a powerful presence. She would be someone who in my past, I probably would have suffered from some imposter syndrome in being around her, because she's very urban and very, I really have so much respect for her. And it was fun to be in a space. I know her in the industry, but I don't know her real well. And so I had some time to be closer to her, and I learned some really amazing things from her, around health and wellness, like some things she's doing that I am going to do, because I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and I'm not urban. Like I literally am not. I'm really far from being like chic urban. I am a Pacific Northwest girl. Like, I mean, if I could show up in flannels and my Nikes every day at work, I would. I mean, I can dress up, but that's not who I mean, it's funny, right? Because you know me,
Right.
like, it is
Yes.
not who I am. I am so like, I would
Even
rather be,
makeup on, I'm like, girl, you look amazing. You always look amazing. But
but I
your
mean,
true authentic self is like hair tied on the head, no makeup, like being
a
completely
baseball,
outdoorsy. I love it.
yes, a baseball hat sitting on the side of the river. Like that's just like, that is the soul and heart of who I am. And so I can't be her, right? That's my
Right.
point in that. I can't be her. I can dress up and I can look the part, and I can show up for that in the times I need to, but I'm like really okay with who I am as a human
Yeah.
being. And wasn't always. And that's, the personal development is what has gotten me to there. So really invest in yourself, because um, it's really important to do that. So a few resources to help you with imposter syndrome. You can check out the book, The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women by Valerie Young. It offers insights
So
and
good.
strategies. I'll take notes
Yeah.
and grab that one, because I have not read that one. She
Yeah.
dives
So
into
good.
psychological aspects of imposter syndrome and provides practical strategies for overcoming it. So this is something that you've read, Ange?
Yeah, yeah, so good, so good. Because I
Okay.
think as soon as you guys brought this to my attention 15 years ago, be you, do you, that I did my personal development for probably 6 months. I did personal development just around imposter syndrome,
I love that.
podcasts, books. Yeah, I was talking to people about it.
Well, and I think that that's important. What Angie just said is that I love to take one thing and work on one thing. Like if you know you're struggling with imposter syndrome, work on it. There's no magic timeline to fixing something in your life. So work on it until you feel like you've overcome it. And then when you feel like you need to revisit it, revisit it. So I'm always working on one thing in my personal development. Money mastery is the big one for me right now. I've come a long way in regard to that, but that's what I'm really working on my personal development around is really mastering my relationship with my feelings around money and knocking out a lot of that lack. You can do online courses, platforms like Coursera and LinkedIn Learning provide courses on overcoming imposter syndrome. And lastly, you can attend therapy or coaching. Really valuable. I think having a great therapist for something is always a great answer, especially if you're challenged with overcoming that on your own. Working with specialized therapists or coaches can offer personalized support and guidance and really help you knock it out of the park and becoming your best version and knocking those things out that are creating that imposter syndrome.
That is totally well said. And I love that you gave those resources for people because I think that that's really important. This topic is near and dear to our hearts. We are always going to be touching on imposter syndrome, but I know we're going to be wrapping up this episode of SalesSheros. We really wanted to leave you guys with this. Imposter syndrome may lurk in the shadows, but you're armed with awareness and actionable strategies to have the power to conquer it. We believe in you. We love you guys all. So remember, you're not alone in this journey. Reach out to your fellow Sheros, lean on your support network. Never underestimate the strength that lies within you. So keep shining bright, Sheros, keep pushing the boundaries, and together, let's rewrite the narrative of success by talking about these topics that are a little bit uncomfortable and awkward, right? That's what we've got to do.
Yes. Until next time, stay courageous, stay confident, and keep soaring high, SalesSheros.